There's something nobody tells you, but it explains why so many people feel exhausted, anxious, mentally drained, and emotionally empty. And no, it's not because they lack time, talent, or effort. It's because they're overwhelmed by things that don't even matter. That's right. Most people spend their entire lives trying to please those who don't care, chasing approval from people who don't even respect themselves. So, stop being controlled by others, and it's really easy, and I'll prove it to you. But here's the real secret. It's not about becoming cold or shutting down emotionally. It's about becoming free. Free from the weight of needing outside validation. Free from the fear of rejection. Free from the constant urge to compare yourself to others. These three simple words, when spoken with real intention, become your emotional shield. They protect you from noise, judgment, and social pressure. They put you back in control. And if you're thinking this all sounds like just another catchy quote, hold on tight. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to put this into practice every single day without pretending to be someone you're not. So if you're tired of living to please everyone else and you're ready to reclaim your focus, your confidence, and your peace, go ahead and drop a comment saying, I'm done living like this. Hit the like button and subscribe, because from this point on, there's no turning back. From a very young age, we're trained to care about what others think. And that's not by accident. It's the result of deep, subtle social conditioning. At universities like Harvard and Stanford, studies show how the constant need for social approval shapes even our most basic behaviors. And here's the harsh truth. The more we try to live up to other people's expectations, the further we drift from our true selves. The craving for external validation often disguises itself as ambition, but in reality, it's an emotional prison. These days, thousands of people wake up and the first thing they do isn't check their phone for fun. It's driven by social anxiety. Scrolling through social media has become the norm, not the exception. And with every perfect photo, someone's self-esteem quietly erodes. Self-awareness turns into self-criticism instead of growth. The opinions of others have become our compass, and that robs us of emotional control. It drains your energy, your focus, even your sense of life purpose. Your mind gets caught up trying to be who the world wants you to be and forgets who you really are. Want a real-world example? Meet James. He's 34, looks successful online, but inside, he's constantly on edge. He barely sleeps, depends on stimulants just to get through the day, and he feels like he has to maintain a perfect image 24/7. It's exhausting. He's never learned to say no. He constantly pushes past his own limits just to appear in control. What James is missing isn't motivation. It's emotional freedom, self-trust, and selective focus. He's stuck in a race with no finish line, trying to impress people who aren't even paying attention. And the truth is, this mental trap is way more common than most people admit, because pretending everything's fine is easier than facing what's really going on. There's an emotional math no one ever teaches you, but it silently runs your life. Every pointless worry drains your mental energy. Every attempt to please someone who doesn't value you chips away at your self-esteem. And the focus you waste on things that don't matter, you don't get that back. At the end of the day, it's this invisible drain that leaves you tired, unproductive, and disconnected from what truly matters. But nobody talks about that, because it's easier to say you lack motivation than to admit you're addicted to chasing approval. Now, imagine this. What if you wrote down, for just 1 week, every moment you worried about what someone else might think? The results would probably shock you. Remember that time you hesitated to speak up in a meeting? Or when you posted something online and kept checking your likes every 5 minutes? That comes at a cost. And it's not just time, it's your life force. Little by little, your confidence wears down. Your emotional resilience weakens. And fear of rejection starts taking over. It's like driving with the parking brake on and blaming the car for not moving faster. Now think about this. How many hours a week do you spend trying to impress people you don't even truly respect? That coworker who only talks to criticize, that boss who never acknowledges your efforts, or that social circle that constantly judges you behind your back? That's not networking, that's emotional burnout. You deserve better than to stay stuck in a system that drains your emotional energy in exchange for scraps of validation. The problem is, most people don't see it, at least not until they're too exhausted to make a change. But hold on, it's not too late. You can flip this script. And the next step? It's easier than you think. Caring less about everything isn't about being cold. It's about being strategic. When you learn to practice selective focus, you start prioritizing what truly matters and letting go of everything that only serves to steal your peace. That's where emotional intelligence comes in, not as some abstract theory, but as a real, practical skill. Knowing where to place your attention, saying no without guilt, and maintaining healthy boundaries, those aren't signs of indifference. They're signs of strength. The truth is, the person who cares less about what doesn't matter is actually caring more about themselves, their authenticity, their self-worth, and their life purpose. Think of your brain like a smartphone with limited battery life. Every time you worry about something irrelevant, it's like running a heavy app in the background. Sound familiar? That pointless argument that played on repeat in your head all day. That judgment you pretended didn't bother you, but kept ruminating on. All of that drains your emotional energy. And what's left for you? Almost nothing. A Stanford study found that selective attention dramatically improved performance on complex tasks. In plain English, the better you are at ignoring the noise, the more you achieve with less effort. That's why caring less is, ironically, one of the most powerful forms of self-care. When you master this art, you filter your relationships more wisely. You make better decisions. Even your thoughts become more aligned with your truth. You begin to see that not every compliment is worth chasing, and not every criticism deserves a response. What some people call arrogance is really just emotional maturity. And when you start to feel that kind of freedom in your everyday life, everything around you starts to shift. But this transformation doesn't just happen on its own. It takes a conscious decision, and that's exactly where things start to get really interesting. Now it's time to move from theory to action. Let's start with a simple tool you can use in just 30 seconds, a quick mental checklist. Ask yourself, does this thing that's bothering me affect my life purpose? Is it aligned with my values, or am I just chasing social approval? If the answer isn't a clear and confident yes, then it probably doesn't deserve your emotional energy. This kind of self-awareness helps train your brain to filter out the noise and focus on what truly builds your self-worth. Next, let's talk about the power of saying no. A lot of people fear it, like saying no makes them rude. But the truth is, a well-placed no is actually a declaration of self-respect. Want a phrase you can use that sets a boundary without sounding harsh? Try this. I understand that this is important to you, but right now, I need to prioritize other things. Just like that, you've set a healthy boundary, protected your emotional freedom, and still showed respect. This kind of clear communication cuts down on social anxiety in a big way. Another key point, tolerating judgment. A practical way to build this skill is with small, intentional exposure. Start by being more authentic in low-stakes situations, like sharing your honest opinion in a casual conversation or wearing something you love, even if it's not on trend. These small actions build emotional resilience and slowly reduce your fear of rejection. And finally, train yourself to let go of outcomes. Spend just 1 minute a day visualizing the process, not the applause. Focus on showing up in alignment with your values. When you do that, what others think becomes just background noise. And it's in that inner silence where real growth begins. The 3 most toxic myths about not giving a fuck. Myth number 1. People who care less come off as arrogant. Not true. In reality, people who practice selective focus radiate confidence, not superiority. The difference is all in the intention. Arrogance is about trying to prove something. Emotional control is about living in peace with authenticity. And here's the interesting part. The more someone lives in alignment with their values, the more genuine respect they receive. Not because they demand it, but because they inspire it. Authenticity is magnetic. People notice when you respect yourself, even without you saying a word. Myth number 2. If you stop people-pleasing, others will reject you. Here's the raw truth. The only people who reject you for setting boundaries are the ones who benefited from your lack of them. The ones who truly matter in your life will value your emotional freedom, your self-awareness, and your ability to say no without guilt. Fear of rejection is fed by a fragile self-image, one built on social comparison and external validation. Breaking free from that takes courage. But that's exactly what separates those who live for approval from those who live with purpose. Myth number 3. Not people-pleasing means missing out on opportunities. Actually, it's the complete opposite. When you stop trying to please everyone, you start seeing clearly what's right for you. Your emotional intelligence sharpens. Your focus clears up, and the right doors begin to open, not because you forced them, but because you stopped wasting time on the wrong ones. Saying yes to everything often means saying no to yourself. But when you flip that pattern, you realize what once felt like sacrifice was actually freedom. You don't need permission to respect yourself. What you do need is the courage to stop looking outside for what only you can build from within. When you choose to care less about what drains you, you make space to focus on what strengthens you. Emotional intelligence grows. Self-confidence solidifies. Emotional freedom finally starts to show up. Not because the world changed, but because you changed the way you show up in it. Now you've got tools. You understand the hidden costs of trying to please everyone. You've learned that saying no clearly is an act of self-love, that other people's judgment doesn't define you, that the only respect that truly matters starts from within. So use this. Apply it. Try it. Watch yourself. And if this message resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear these truths. And drop a comment below. Let me know which of these techniques you're going to start with.